are we gonna get the grant? Then we can sit down and say, okay, we've got this much money, or we don't have this much money. Now then, what do we do now? That's where we need to go, because if we sit down here and say, okay, yeah, we can spend $11,000 on this and 11,000 on that, 25,000 on this and that, pretty soon, you don't have any money left. You've nickel and dimed yourself to death. Wait until we get the word on the grant before we do anything as far as capital expenditure.
Larry, I would agree with, I'm sorry.
I feel like we need to get started and allocate what we have. I understand your concerns, but not doing the CIP isn't going to get us enough money to do the projects you're concerned about. I think we need to let our managers know where they stand so they can make plans. And we need to work on what we came here today for and talk about this. Nothing is set in stone. We're here, we're together, we have the numbers, let's go to work on CIP.
Well, and the thing of it is too, just because we sit down and prioritize these and plug them back in, doesn't mean they're necessarily going to
That's
spend them tomorrow. I mean,
That's right.
we voted to agree to rehab the pond last year, and then the managers decided that that could be done in-house and didn't need to be done through contracting, and so completely, change things. The one thing that this would do is, if we get the grant, then all of this would already be in place. Now, if we don't get the grant, then we're going to be back to square one anyway. So, I'm a little like Phyllis, let's just go ahead and decide what we would plug back in until we get that number to basically zero, and it would help prioritize this. The problem that Holiday Island has had in the years that I've been here is deferred maintenance. Things don't get taken care of in a timely manner, and then everything starts looking shabby, and,
Well, and, you can't keep putting it off, betting on the cup.
Right.
I mean, that's what we have done.
mhm.
And, after I came on the board last December, we had already been 3 or 4 months into the rec center conversation. We went another 3 or 4 months before a decision was made. That's not what we got elected.
Mhm.
We were put here to do the best we can and come to an agenda of what needs to be fixed and what doesn't.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's my opinion.
I wanted to mention too, Larry's out of the room right now, but we owe it to the new board that takes over December 8th or 9th or whatever it is. We need to have a budget for them. They shouldn't come in as a newly elected board member and say, gee, what do I do with this $4.7 million budget? It's got to be done by the election date.
Yeah. I
Well, we
agree.
could have everything in place though, Ken, except for this.
Okay.
Right.
We can make a decision about
Yeah.
The salaries and,
the foundation of the whole budget. And there's not a lot on this CIP list that's an emergency. In fact, there's probably nothing. I would like to ask Danny though. Danny,
Yes, sir.
when, like last year, we set aside $150,000, I think, to kick off the rec center project. Where did that money go? And is that,
It is still
is that
in,
how we're paying the 106 that Ken mentioned? The site preparation, the tear down?
that money goes essentially what would be the,
Is it in the reserve?
like a general fund.
Okay.
So it's in that money market account, which
Okay.
is kind of the mothership of all the money.
So we've got that money, we've got the 150,000 that we set aside for that pond rehabilitation. I mean, we've got some monies that,
it's already
Yes.
been out.
And when you look at the money market account balance as opposed to previous years, you can see that it's increasing, and that's part of that money.
okay. Well, we need to keep that in mind too, some of the stuff like the rec center that Ken was talking about, this pre-work that's been done, the tearing it down, the asbestos and the site preparation. We had money to cover all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Oh, speaking of that, I cut out a couple of articles from the paper yesterday. We get a paper on Sunday, a computer paper during the week.
They still
But
make
here
those?
are, I still read a paper. These are Simmons Bank up to 3.30 for investments, CDs like we have. Here's 3.50 from Sterling Bank in Fayetteville. Here's one for 3.25 from Unified Bank. So we can go other than CS Bank and Arvis Bank, and our monies, and there's some coming due, as Danny said. We should really, you're a banker.
Don't count on those rates.
Yeah, we should
We'll get there.
we should go on that and get more money, and it doesn't have to be in Holiday Island or Eureka.
Oh, you put it out the last time, didn't you?
Yeah, Arvis got it.
I want to apologize for that interruption. That was my daughter.
No problem. Andy, I just have one question. Well, I'll probably have more than one, but I'll start with this one. The booster tank rehab and paint, that's
Yes,
a
ma'am.
contract, isn't it? Aren't we somewhat committed to those numbers?
Mhm.
What,
On water?
is this the water tower that's there or the 9-hole course tank? There's two tanks there.
Let me find what you're looking at. Are you
On water and
Water.
sewer.
water and sewer?
Yeah.
Yes, you're correct, that is a contract, and.
So we're
We're
committed
committed to that.
to
Now,
almost $40,000 right there.
We
And it
could
needs to be
terminate-
done anyway. I mean,
We could terminate the contract, but that would not be advisable. We have to maintain those
You
tanks.
can't do that.
So that includes the 11.8.
well, we need to add back,
Where'd you get that number, Suzanne?
well, on this
Yeah,
paper at the top,
but you said 20-some thousand?
Well,
And it looks
you
like
said
it's
40,
11,000.
yeah.
it's 11, but the next one is the fire station number 1, Summit and Rocky Top, which
Okay.
is 26,000.
Okay,
So-
that was my question. was
You
where
add those two
Yeah,
together
so,
and you've got 38,000 right there.
Mhm.
But I
Well-
think we need to add that back in because we're committed to that and it needs to be done anyway.
So take it out of CIP and move it to.
That's it, that should be in operations.
Well,
That's where it is. That's not a capital expenditure, that's operations. You-
well,
To
honestly,
maintain
can't-
capital assets
you-
has to be in capital.
Oh, okay, thank you.
honestly, all of this
No.
is generally,
If you patch a hole, did you make that a capital
Well,
expenditure?
because
No,
of
that's
the-
not so.
Well, according to our accountant, because of the dollar amount being over 5,000, to maintain or make improvements to a capital asset is a capital expenditure.
Okay.
If,
so go back to your first sheet.
Okay? Now, as we do this, I'm happy to go back and forth and just transfer those numbers over.
Yeah, let's
all right, and this is for the cathodic protection in the
Yes.
water towers? Is that
Yes.
your contract?
Yes,
Run that by me again, sir.
those cathodes, they're inside the
Oh,
water tank.
yes.
No, for the cathodic protection
Yeah,
of the tank. That has to be done. That's part of it. That's,
so under the water
You know what?
line, Danny, we need to add back whatever the total of 11,832 and 26,166. That's 37,998.
Okay. Okay.
I don't see anything else that's, and the only reason I know that is I signed a check for that, and I asked, what is this for?
Yeah.
So you live and learn.
For those who don't know, the commissioner comes in each week, a different commissioner, and signs checks with Danny. And it's really a learning experience because you learn how much money goes out for different purposes. But I'd like to commend you and Dan, I guess Danny, that it seems like the water department, water and sewer, does due diligence in like a water tank. We can't have those go down. We cannot have, we have to have them painted, we have to have them leak-proof, and if we've got a contract with that, and we don't want our guys up 100 feet in the air, so I really commend all these regular contracts, and we've got to pay them. We've got to do it.
Of course we do. That's,
Do you want to take out the 25,000 PRV replacement out of that yellow block?
Yeah, take that.
It's already
It's
out.
gone.
What we're doing now is adding back in.
I can't see up there. That's why
Yeah.
I'm working on my sheet.
And I can go back to,
You know, the other thing that I see, I mean, everything that you've highlighted as important,
What-
I agree is important.
I would like a little explanation of what this water source
Yeah.
alternative study
Yeah,
is for $35,000.
I am too.
I can tell you what I've been told. At some time in the past, they determined that if we were not able to pull water out of the ground, how else would we get water?
Yeah.
Well, honestly, the only way you can get water is to tie into the Beaver
Beaver
Lake
Lake
water
system.
system, which is gonna be god-awful expensive. Yeah, Carol Boone, but I'm guessing that that's what that is. But I think, I surely think we can delay on that. The only other thing that I see that, you know, they talked about on the marina, the electrical upgrades were somewhat critical, and then
Yes.
this heating of the road, replacing the heaters in the road department.
He's on electric now, right, Danny? He wants to go to propane?
He-
Mike?
we discussed that just last week, and, you know, he said the electric would be fine. It seems like it might be more cost-effective to use the propane, but then, well, then you gotta buy a propane tank and plumb it,
We've
and,
got one over there at the barn that's gonna be out, it's no longer needed, a big one. It's from here to that screen along.
what I was showing on one list here was $5,000, because they're 5 heaters at $1,000 each. Mike said we could back that down to 2,000, and just do 2 heaters.
Oh, and just,
Well, speaking of the checks we write, every month it's 10 or 12,000 for Carroll Electric. So if there's any way we can get away from electric heat in a big shop building with garage doors and so forth, I would like to see us go to propane, which is also going on.
Have you seen
Yeah.
what the cost of propane?
Yeah,
I was
no
gonna
kidding.
say.
Yeah, that's a,
Yeah, it's,
I'm not sure anymore, you know, I don't know.
It's warmer,
and you still gotta have the electricity to blow the heat.
yeah.
That's true.
I think that's something that we can
Can live without?
live without maybe.
well, and if it's a $2,000 expenditure, it doesn't meet the threshold to be on CIP.
No, that's right.
So we could make that decision on down the road
Okay.
Sure.
and leave it off of here.
Could we go back,
Operations.
could we go back to the water and sewer though? There's some pretty important things there that we really need to discuss. And I personally like to see that water source alternative study go away unless somebody can give me a very, very important reason why we'd want to spend $35,000 on something that we probably already know the answer to. But the SCADA system, that is a extremely important thing to the operation of both water and sewer. And I think it's important to have that maintained and operational. I don't know what the upgrade is, though. Is this something to just keep it functional, or is this something to enhance it, or?
Which, are you looking at the,
The SCADA,
SCADA.
SCADA system upgrade.
18.
no, I believe that is, you know, SCADA is systems control and data analysis that can be done remotely on his phone, and I think that's just a part of upgrading that. I don't know at what point we are with the SCADA development. It's relatively new. I mean, I think like 2 years we've had that SCADA system there, and they've been tweaking it for a long time. I would have to ask Dan again, and we had a brief conversation when I met with Dan in the budget workshops that we did with staff. But I don't remember all of the details about what that upgrade is.
Well, it was on there last year. I remember it because I didn't know what SCADA was at that point in time. And he said it would be nice to have. It has more features than the one that we have now. He could live without it, but it surely would be great to have. But then again, lift station rehabilitation.
That's more important in my mind.
I know it. I mean,
Yeah.
that needs to happen.
And we need to, that's something that they've been doing every year, rehabilitating these lift stations, and they are so
We did.
critical to our whole sewer system. We need, that is a must-do.
Yeah.
That is a given.
And Danny, the booster pump, well number 5, do you know the details of that? Is that something that would be covered under this grant money that's gonna rehab?
Yes, sir, I was going to mention that,
All right.
you know, when we rehab that booster, the pump system, the pipe, all of that is like 50 years old.
Oh, yeah.
So it's going to be an entire overhaul for
Yeah.
well 4 and 5.
Which one is five?
Under the grant.
Is that the one at the bottom of the hill? Is it
Down off the
Yeah.
end of Wild Turkey.
off of Wild Turkey? And
So-
where's 4?
I don't know.
You're testing my memory.
We went around all over.
Yeah.
Well, I just remember the one at the bottom of
Yeah,
Country Club
yeah.
near Wild Turkey and how that inside of that building looked.
Yeah.
I have problems remembering what I had for dinner last night.
But you say that would be part of our grant money, is
Yeah.
that correct? So
Let's-
we can take
That's
that
correct.
off of here.
So we could take that 35,000 out.
But don't you think we ought to add the lift station rehabilitation?
Oh, that's gotta
Absolutely.
be, that's
Yeah,
gotta be.
That's a must-do.
Okay, so let's add another $12,000 on that page 1, which gets it to 49,998.
Gosh, you guys are
Danny, do you know how much,
We rehearsed that.
to rehab a lift station, how much are we looking at per lift station, Danny, you know? We've got 12,000 in there, we'll have to 2, 3,
I do not know.
About
That
27.
couldn't be more than probably 2 lift stations. It's very expensive to rehab a lift station.
we have 27 of them in the district, 27.
That's correct.
And we haven't done many over the years, not many.
We
It's
try
because
to
we
budget
haven't had
for like
money.
2 or 3 or something like that every year. I
And they're
know we've
maintained.
budgeted in this current year to do a couple.
They're maintained daily as well.
Our crew maintains them.
But my question, again, on that top line, the 9-hole booster tank rehab and paint, is that the water tower or the 9-hole golf course tank?
That's gotta be the golf course, because at that amount, if it was the main tank, the hydro pillar type tank, I would think it would be much higher than that
We got a
for the
quote
big tank.
a little over a year ago on repainting hydro pillar. That was gonna be $250,000.
The big one.
Really?
They're extremely expensive.
That main tank there was
Is that the one across from the outside?
where we had PCBs
One
to
on the
paint.
island.
That was an ordeal. But if that is for the 9-hole golf course, why is it in the water system?
I mean, I guess one could argue it's a part of the water system.
It's not. It's
Well,
the irrigation
That's for
system, period.
location purposes.
Danny,
That's
could you,
just to tell
could
you
you
where it is.
get with them and clarify
I
that
will.
for us?
Can you look at the bottom and see where our total stands now? On that first page?
So we've added in on water,
That should be 49,998. 47, no, 49.
okay, so, I mean, that's our total, that's the only thing that we've added in so
Right.
far is water, so.
Right.
Now, I don't see that this number here is pulling over to this number here. But that's okay, I can, we can do the math manually.
Yeah, what, 153
Yeah,
Minus-
153, 171
minus
with,
50?
with all the raises.
Yeah, so basically,
We're right about
rough,
103,000.
103,000. You listened to Colin talk about dire
That's
state.
where I
Was that where
going
you
with
headed?
Yeah, the bottom two items on our sheet, the marina electrical issues, we've got to fix that. Two of those docks, for at least half the summer, were black. And Colin said there are some serious electrical issues, and we need to fix that. And I'd like to see us invest in the
Me
campground.
too.
Yes.
That's a money
As
maker
much as
for
it's
us.
being used.
Yeah, it is extremely well used, and I don't think that's that's just,
That's just keeping it decent.
Gravel,
Keep
yeah.
it- That's
Yeah.
just keeping it,
and Danny, the manager, does a
yeah.
phenomenal job down there, and I think we need to do that.
I would agree with that too.
My only other question on this whole sheet, because I don't like the rest of them all that well. Replace the doors at the pro shop, and this would be a fire and handicap requirement. You talk to that at all, Danny?
I did speak to Lauren about that. He said that there are two sets of doors. I wasn't clear if it was just that main entrance where you come in, where the restrooms are and the point of sale, but there are the other doors that are down the hallway
Yeah.
towards the ballroom.
Go into the ball.
And so
Two
that
sets.
number that was in here was for both sets of those doors.
Replace both of them.
So is
To
this
make them
a,
handicap accessible,
yeah,
Yes,
and,
and we should have had to have done that a long time
A
ago.
long time ago, yeah.
and they're just really, really old anyway. But
Yeah.
Danny, do you know if that is a hard, did he get a actual bid on that, or that
He did
a
not.
guesstimate?
He did not, and I asked him, but he's working on that. He did tell me that he was
Okay.
working on that, I was gonna try to give me some numbers.
If we could have that by,
Let's go back, Danny, and let's add back in the $15,000 at the marina for the electrical upgrades.
Okay.
And
Got that right
gravel,
here.
20 for gravel.
And then 20,000 for the site improvements at the campground. We started with, okay, all right, it has adjusted itself right now. Because remember, we started with 234 over on that net
Okay.
line.
Let me-
I think it's adjusted itself. So
Okay.
we see how it's changed to 199. So if we take off 118, then we're at 81,000.
There we go.
remain.
So I'm carrying this number
Uh-huh,
over to here, and then,
yes, okay, that's, yeah, I see what you're doing.
yeah,
Okay.
and then this is the remaining, so 53,000.
53,000, don't you think we ought to do those doors in the clubhouse then that we were talking about?
Yeah,
I think so.
All right, so let's move back up to the handicap doors on the pro shop.
Let's see, golf maintenance, golf
Now, he has 10,000 down, oh no.
I'll probably put that here with restaurant meeting areas.
Okay.
Those are in there twice. He's got 10,000 in the ballroom, and he's got 10,000 in the pro shop. Now, does pro shop, does that mean that,
And that was one of my questions when I saw the number of 10,000. I said, but I know there's two sets of doors. Is that
Well-
one set or two sets?
yeah. I'm questioning if it's in here twice.
I bet it's the two separate facilities.
I bet it's those
The pro
exterior
shop,
doors
that's-
on the pro
that's
shop.
one double door, set of double doors goes into the pro shop.
And those have been a
And there's
mess.
two sets of double doors that go into the ballroom lobby.
Right.
So we're talking about three nothing downstairs, just three double doors.
We'll have to,
So it would seem to me that would be 15,000 for 3 sets of doors, right?
we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, see what he comes
comes
up
back
with. Yeah.
for an actual cost.
Just to be conservative, if it's okay with the board, I'll plug in 15,000 right here.
Okay.
That brings us to right at 100,000 total for CIP, and then at 38,000 down here would be our, that's where we're at.
I'd like to go back for a moment,